Hey everyone, welcome back to our listing management mini-series with Dylan and
Angela.
Great to be back into this conversation. I'm really enjoying diving into this, and I know we've got a lot of feedback from you guys that this is exactly it's what we're dealing with on the streets these days.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I'm hearing as well.
We've got several more installments coming. I know that next time we're getting into just an actual communications plan.
Yep, very excited about that.
Some guidance on that. We're really going to dig into, I guess, what we're calling the four Ps now. Product, price, promotion, and patience. Mm-hmm. And we're going to get into price reductions and some other stuff as well. But I think I want to call it a sidestep.
Yeah,
we're
a little bit.
Zoom back a little bit today.
Yeah.
And really dig into some psychology and just spend some time thinking through the circumstance and the situation and the context that we're in as we're dealing with sellers in this new environment.
Yeah, that's what I was imagining. This is kind of like an overarching umbrella for all the things, right? Like this is
sets the stage.
Yeah, kind of for all the other things, kind of wrapped up. Yeah.
So put on your psychology hats and join us just to think through the context that we're walking into with our sellers here every single time. So there's no better way to set the stage here than to pull out that 20-something-year-old concept that I think it was the great Joe Nigo.
Joe Nigo in my Peak Producers classes the first time I heard it, and I think it's brilliant.
If you know what the love-o-meter is, then you are officially old.
Yep.
And in the very, very first installments of, I think it was 100 Days to Greatness, or maybe the first Peak Producers.
Maybe. I had definitely heard it in my Peak Producers. I didn't take 100 Days originally.
So Joe Nigo was Brian Buffini's kind of partner in crime. I believe they ran their businesses around the same time, and they would have run their businesses in the first of our eras, where days on market was a little higher. And Joe had this brilliant talk that he gave, and maybe we need to pull this out.
I know. I'm like, I always have to draw it, and it just is super impactful in my head. Yeah.
Well, we should find the clip. But Joe talked about the love-o-meter, and I think it's a really good way to frame our conversation for today. And the love-o-meter, which is depicted for you on our handout today, is just the graph on an X and Y axis between the love that your seller has for you.
Yep. And the process in general, I think, right? Like how they're feeling about the excitement of the things.
How they feel about selling a house.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, though, how they feel about selling a house is depicted onto your face, right? Because you're the one doing it. And then that over the context of time. And as we know, when we set out to list and sell and market a property, in the beginning of the relationship, when they choose you to be their listing agent, they love you.
I think they're pretty excited, yeah.
They're pretty high on the love-o-meter, and that's because that's why they chose you. They believe in you. They're excited about the process. They're not excited to sell their house, but their hopes are high. They're excited to move. There was something about
the way that you communicated with them, right? That they were like, okay, let's do this. I'm on board.
Of all the fish in the sea, they picked you.
Yeah.
So they must like you. We presume they do. And so the love is high. And what Joe describes is that essentially what being a great listing agent is about, especially in a context of expanded or extended days on market,
for sure,
which most of you have no idea about,
but are experiencing now.
Yeah, is essentially over time the love starts to dip. And it dips because after a week or two, it's stressful. It's hard to keep your house clean. It's hard to live in a home while showings are going on. You're disrupted constantly. People schedule showings and then just don't show up. People show the house and leave a mess.
Yeah, I was going to say that. Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
It's highly stressful to live in a house while it's on show. And let's be honest, like I keep my house super clean, but it's not show ready every day.
You're not ready for strangers to walk through your home necessarily anytime.
So now it's 12 in the afternoon. You're at work.
Yes.
You mostly cleaned the house in the morning, but you know there's a few things that aren't right. You get the call. They want to see the house this afternoon at 4 p.m. And that completely screws up your work day. You know that your kids now you have to figure out
where they're going to go. Yep.
The degree of stress is through the roof.
Yeah.
And so inevitably, as things go right or wrong, it's now been a week, it's been 2, it's been 3. That's a pretty high level of stress that we're living under. It's just picture like cortisol pumping constantly.
Totally, for sure.
And every single day while that's going on, they're backing out of their driveway in the morning and they see your beautiful or ugly mugshot on a sign. And they leave every morning with a degree of hope and excitement and anticipation that today might be the day.
Yeah.
And then the stress happens, life happens, work happens. And at the end of the day, around 5:30 or 6, they pull back into their driveway and they see your gorgeous or ugly mugshot
again.
Once again. And And over time, you can understand, without being a psychologist or a genius, that starts to build up a degree of frustration and resentment.
Absolutely.
And where would we project that? We're not going to project it onto us or our house. You're the one we hired, and we're paying you a hefty sum of money.
I mean, honestly, yeah.
To get the job done. And we believe and believed in you to get this done.
Yeah.
And it's not done yet.
Yeah.
So the natural implications of that is the love starts to dip. And what Joe Nigo says that's so brilliant is essentially the game of listing management is getting the home sold before the love-o-meter dips below through the tolerate line down into
hate.
I just hate you.
I do not like you as a person or a human anymore.
And it's not personal.
Yeah.
I think, and that's maybe the whole point of today's episode, is to understand that the natural implications, the natural outcome of an extended time on market with the frustration and stress that someone's enduring is going to, in any relationship, it's like couples building a house together. It's a pretty good way to ruin your relationship.
Yeah. I think one of the strongest like quotes that then Buffini kind of taglined with along with this Joe Nigo Love-O-Meter speech was, we don't get people at their best. We get them at their stress, which is so true. Like some of these human beings are our friends and family and people that we know. And then we feel like we see this other side come out in them, but it's like, but that's legit. It is a stressful situation. And like all of those things you described about your home being ready at all times and people, strangers walking through that messes with your psyche. It is not necessarily a fun thing.
So the most steady, calm, patient, loving of people, even the worst of them comes out.
Yes, it's not fun.
And then some of our clients aren't patient, gentle, kind to begin with.
Yeah.
So I just think we need to understand the battleground that we're stepping into.
Yeah.
And again, not to beat a drum, but when we were selling in a week or two or three,
we didn't really have to manage this as much.
You managed the stress, but it was a fundamentally different thing. It was more like a whirlwind or tornado of immediate activity, and you had to still be a psychologist. But I think it was a different psychology game. This is an entirely different disease that we're curing for here.
Yes, because it really is that stretched out timeline. That really is the point behind this part of the Love-O-Meter. Yeah.
So given the Love-O-Meter and given the just sheer volume of stress that we know we're dealing with, there's a few things that we just need to hone.
Keep in mind, just understand.
Well, I think understand, and then I think that there's some skills that we need to develop.
Yes.
And the way we're framing this is, and we've been talking about this a lot with our staff, as they have to deal with real estate agents.
Maybe that's a good example.
Well, and so in the backstage, we're talking a lot about empathy, and we're talking a lot about theory of mind. And I think the distinction between these two things is super important. I think most of us are talking a lot about empathy right now in the world because the world lacks it.
Yeah.
But I mean, empathy is just...
Truly, can you step in someone else's shoes and understand how they're feeling? Yes, it's the feeling.
Can I feel what you're feeling?
Yep.
And sympathy would be different than that. Sympathy is to like...
Oh, you're sad.
I could feel bad for your feelings.
Yeah.
But this is about being able to actually feel somebody else's feelings. And I think it's worth spending a minute really absorbing yourself into what a client feels throughout that period of time. I mean, I know you will love how you look on your signs, but I really think you got to be in their shoes for a minute and consider the amount of time and stress and implications of keeping your house show ready like that. And, you know,
they don't do this very often. And like they do it every 7 to 10 years. We're doing this on a regular basis to know how it goes. Like it's just different feelings.
Well, and like any amount of pain or discomfort in anything, if you know how long the pain's going to last or
you can endure it.
You endure it better. But this is this open-ended file. And on the back end, I think we've all been in situations like this where later on, we actually regret how pissed off we were. We regret how anxious because we feel silly. But in the moment, you don't know how long the discomfort's going to last. Mm-hmm. And I think that's where our sellers are at. And so I think developing the capacity, and forget developing the capacity, intentionally exercising the muscle and actually creating systems is the wrong word, but forcing ourselves to deploy empathy.
Yeah.
And I think it's different for every single client as well. So some clients, the empathy is, we really need to understand they've got 4 kids at home.
Yes.
They're trying to juggle that while being at work. It doesn't change the fact that the house has to be show ready. It doesn't change the fact that it needs to be better staged. It doesn't change the fact that you can't like show a house when there's
kids' toys everywhere or whatever. Yeah.
Or something in the toilet that shouldn't be there.
Because kids.
But developing empathy and deploying empathy is fundamental to your ultimate outcome.
Yeah.
Because I think, and let's say this now, we got to remember that our ultimate objective here is obviously to sell a house and to get there without a client hating us.
Yeah.
But the real point of that is our ultimate goal is to win an advocate here,
Yes.
right?
And it's all about how you made them feel.
It's going to be about how you made them feel.
Yeah.
That's perfect. So empathy is the first thing. We've got to understanding our client's feelings. And it's so important because if we do that, it's going to alter, change, and assist us.
And the way you speak, like I was even thinking like your language changes when you're like approaching somebody with true empathy, I think. Yeah.
Because I think if we're honest, many times in these situations, we do approach our clients with a degree of callousness or transactionality or flippant frustration with like what's wrong with you? Seriously.
Why would you ask me that? Kind of.
Yeah, that's a stupid question. Or I'm frustrated that you're frustrated. And I think what we're lacking there is just basic common sense. As experts, what we've got to recognize is that if we were in their shoes, we'd probably have the same degree of frustration.
Yeah, definitely.
There's nothing easy about this process.
Yep.
Theory of mind is slightly different than empathy. And this is a one that most people aren't as familiar with. But theory of mind is the capacity to understand what somebody else is thinking.
Actually, yeah.
It starts
the logic behind the feelings kind of thing, right?
Sure. I mean, the whole thesis behind theory of mind in psychoanalysis or psychology is that, if you take a 2-year-old or a 1-year-old, they're fully aware that they think, they're fully aware what they want.
Yep.
And somewhere in their developmental cycle at like 5 or 6 or before that, 4, they start to realize, wait, mom has feelings and thoughts and preferences too. And sometimes they don't align with mine. And then you realize, wait, there's an other. And then growing up in life is about realizing that everyone's an other and everyone has different thoughts. And the capacity to get into their mind and go, wait, what are they thinking in this moment?
Yeah.
Is fundamentally, it's a sister to empathy.
Yep.
But it is different. And both of those things have to be taken into account as we're dealing with these people. And we figure out how to navigate this now extended period of time with them, accounting for the very real feelings that they have and the very real thoughts that any rational human being would be having at this point of the journey.
Yep.
And so I wish I had more practical insights for you guys on empathy and theory of mind, but I don't. The truth is some of us are naturally good at this because our life skills have honed our capacity. I mean, people like Vic just naturally feel
empathetic.
Everybody's feelings.
Yep.
And other people have really spent a lot of time thinking analytically about thinking. And so it's easier for us to maybe get in somebody's mind.
Yep.
But I can tell you that regardless of where you are on the scale of your capacity in these things, getting better at reading people's feelings and reading people's thoughts is what you need to do to engage every single client that is fundamentally different. Some people are highly analytical. Some people are very emotional. Some people have...
And you often have both in a couple situation potentially.
100%.
Yeah.
And again, with the end goal being winning advocates, I just need to impress upon you guys. I know we say this over and over again, but I just don't know that it's really resonated into everyone's hearts and minds and souls yet.
Yeah.
You are not seeking to sell the house as your principal objective. You must be focusing on winning an advocate, and that is not going to be about the outcome. It is going to be about how they felt through the journey.
Yeah. I think honestly the entire time you were talking through that and empathy and theory of mind, my brain literally went to our first tips for managing psychology here on the next page, because to really work on your inner understandings of their feelings and the things and thoughts that they might be having. Honestly, be the customer, be the client yourself is one of the best ways I think people can truly start to reformulate and remind themselves what the feelings and thoughts are during the process, right? I think that's a good...
Meaning what?
You need to sell your house every once in a while, so you remember what it's like.
Should Should we mandate it?
I don't know. I mean, I think that's really a thing.
So moving forward, as part of your
contract,
every 3 years, you have CEs that you have to take. And now every 5 years, you have to sell a house. You have to sell your house, but you can't just sell somebody else's house. You have to live in the house with 3 or 4 kids.
And pets. Yeah.
And pets. And go through the process. And you can't be the listing agent. Somebody else has to be. Actually, this is a great thesis. So our great agents would have to deal sometimes, because you just pick the agent out of a hat. Sometimes you get a crappy agent, and that would certainly motivate us to raise the bar in the industry. And some of the crappy agents would get to list their house with a great agent, and they would learn. But I think the point here is that we've heard this a dozen times or 100 times.
Oh, yeah.
Our agents list their house and go through the process.
Oh, yeah.
This was such a pain.
I now really see where my clients are coming from.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think let's jump into some of those tips then.
Yeah,
Obviously, that's not a real tip.
But it's a thing.
Force you guys to sell your house. But I do think putting yourself at least in the mental exercise of going through that will give you some degree of empathy.
Yeah. No matter what. Yeah.
So drink your own medicine. Some other tips that we have for you is what we've been talking about. Formulate a way to intentionalize the deployment of empathy in theory of mind. So, ask yourself intentionally throughout the process that every time you're doing a weekly feedback, every time you're doing a monthly review, every time you're engaging with a stressed out person, and your natural inclination is to get annoyed or frustrated or pissed off because you're doing everything you can. You know that they're asking for things that are outside of your control. And honestly, in those situations, we start to get
our defensiveness comes up. Yes.
And we're understandably annoyed that people are getting crazy. But what we have to do at that point is ask yourself, wait, like what's actually going on here? Like what is this person feeling? How long has it been now?
Yeah.
What's their living situation?
Yep.
So what are the circumstances that are feeding into what feels like or seems like an irrational response?
Yep.
And then you might have a little more empathy and go, wait, it's irrational, but also if I was in their shoes, I'm pretty sure I might be feeling or thinking the same thing.
Yeah, yeah.
So just ask yourself, what are they feeling? What are they thinking? How would I be feeling in this situation?
Yeah, absolutely. And it already kind of alluded to, and I feel like the rest of these are all about this. Third one is you have to have a communication plan. You can't just ignore talking to them. You can't be like, oh, there's nothing new to say to them. You have to have a plan for actually checking in with your people, which I think the rest of these tips really are about, like the way to to think about, or the dialogue and the things you're going to say while you're checking in with them. I think the rest of them do. But yeah, they need updates no matter, even if there's not an update.
Well, and we're going there next.
Yes, I'm so excited to talk about it.
But I mean, let's just, as a prelude, like not just have a plan.
Yes.
I think we need to commit to the idea here that there must be constant and frequent communication. There's nothing more frustrating than not knowing.
Yes.
And any amount of frustration, again, empathy theory of mind, any amount of frustration, humans can endure unbelievable amounts of discomfort.
Yes.
If they know what's going on, if they're informed, if they understand why, and if they understand how long they're going to have to endure it. And that's our job. Our job is to communicate the good, the bad, the ugly, and everything in between. And people roll their eyes at weekly communication, but I'm telling you, when you're on the receiving end of this, a week can feel like a century when you're living in the house and showings are happening frequently.
And I'm pulling out of my driveway every day.
With no feedback, or showings aren't happening frequently. In either of those situations, it's incredibly frustrating. So,
yeah, and I think that this is kind of a prelude for next week too, but I cannot emphasize enough, because I'm guilty of this, the face-to-face, voice-to-voice part of that, like really tuning into your communication not being just text and emails in this environment. You need to get voice-to-voice, face-to-face with them, which go with some of our next things here.
Because that's where you can read emotion. It's where you can
deploy your own language to call out some of the things that we're going to talk about.
It's where you can mitigate and manage emotion. So there's something magical that happens when human beings engage with each other. And so I think the final thing I'll say on communication before we jump into it in a couple of weeks is it's not about the deployment of information.
Yes.
It's about managing the relationship and the emotions.
Yes.
And managing the thinking, because you're going to see stinking thinking start to creep in. And that's where
100%.
theory of mind comes in.
Yeah, and that's why that's where you can deploy some of these things that we're going through next, is the labeling, go toward the danger and ask your clients how they're feeling. So labeling, I think, is super duper powerful, right? Like the calling out, I call this like the call out the elephant in the room, right? Like you guys may be, I can feel that you're maybe feeling frustrated. Like call out the word frustration when you feel like that is probably how they're feeling right now. Like label that negative feeling instead of just dancing around it. I think it does a lot to do.
Some of our people went through our psychology course.
This was in that course
3 years ago. Some of you didn't. And so let's cover this briefly.
Yeah.
Effect labeling is an actual process that is now deeply understood. And it's just that if you can actually, in a what's it called? What's the brain scan called?
Oh, in an MRI?
In an MRI, you can actually measure brain activity.
Yeah.
Negative emotions can be seen and registered, and you can see them flaring up in the amygdala. Simply naming the emotion that's going on inside somebody's brain radically alters the brain's activity. It's simply being able to identify it in and of itself mitigates much of the emotion and the physiological response. So effect labeling is a process that's taught and understood and well coached, and this isn't just some made up theory.
It works.
Simply saying, like, it looks like you're really frustrated right now with where you're at. Or, hey, it seems like you guys are really anxious about what the next few weeks are going to look like. The capacity of naming the emotion for them in and of itself radically reduces the amount of tension or that emotion, frankly.
Yeah,
So we
absolutely.
gave a few examples.
Yeah.
Like at this point, I can imagine you guys must be feeling a lot of frustration. I can tell you're disappointed. That's super powerful.
That's a good one.
And so, I mean, it's a skill to do this well. First of all, you have to have theory of mind
and empathy.
And you've got to be able to see these emotions. You've got to be able to put yourself in their shoes and go, hey, I would probably feel the same thing, and then be willing to call it out.
Yeah, and you can't do that on a text or an email as often. You've got to actually hear their voices, or like you just said, I can see that you're frustrated. Like you can't do that in an email. You can't do it. And I feel like the other thing that I would say, I can tell you're disappointed at the lack of showings. Sometimes, and so am I. I'm a little, I think that calling, like we're in this boat together. I like to label my feeling in that too, to be like, I feel it with you.
Yeah. And some degree of openness, transparency, and vulnerability. Now, if you remember what we said about pricing, we didn't enter into this saying, here's what's going to happen and here's the price that we're going to sell it. We said, look, here's the market environment and here's the competitive landscape. Here's where I think we should be. Where do you want to position it? And then we're going to react to the market. So at this point, maybe we're saying, hey, I can tell you guys are frustrated. I know it's been a month now. Remember, we did talk about this could take up to 60 or 90 days, but I feel your pain. And frankly, I'm feeling some of it too. I'm really annoyed, just like you are, that these showings that they were scheduled didn't show up. And I need to go pick a fight with those guys. but also I'm disappointed, and it looks like you are too. And then, you know, I'm looking at them and I'm looking for the feedback because they're going to go, yeah, we are disappointed. And right away, the elephant in their heart, maybe is a way to put it, comes out. And it deflates all of that pent up energy. And guys, we just got to master these skills. We're dealing with human beings in a highly, highly stressful situation. And half of what you're paid for is to guide them through that process. So
use that labeling. That I think that is so important.
And then don't be afraid to run towards the danger.
Yeah, that's what I say. I can be afraid of this sometimes, like going towards quote unquote the danger of calling out the hard, or
the thing that you're most afraid of, the thing that you're concerned that they're most frustrated about is exactly the thing you need to bring up.
Yep.
And I've been there. It's been a long time since I listed and sold real estate, but oh my gosh, I knew the clients that were probably annoyed. And I knew that it was, you know, the ones that were getting showings every single day and were going to sell relatively quickly. Well, I was talking to them all the time,
and had good news and had somewhat good news all the time.
So nothing was necessary.
Yeah.
It was the very ones that we were struggling with in some way that you find yourself avoiding. And the big scary topic, like, hey, it looks like we were way off on price, or oh my gosh, the marketing is not producing any results right now, or another open house with zero traffic. those are the very things you must choose to bring up.
Yes.
Your job is to be a consultant. Your job is to be a guide. And at the end of the day, if the house doesn't sell, the house doesn't sell. But what you owe these people is
honesty,
an honest, open, vulnerable conversation, because you cannot control the universe. You don't have power of that. But you do have power over the relationship and the communication that you're having as you're guiding a human being through a process. And sometimes we don't sell the house. But can you walk out the other side of that quote unquote failure, still having won, because you did right by the person?
Yeah.
So go towards the danger. You cannot hide from these monsters.
Yeah. My favorite saying for me, because this is sometimes hard for me, is kind candor. That has been very helpful for me in my approach to this. Is it's better to be honest, and there's a kind way to go about it. You don't have to come in there blazing hot. Kind candor is the way I think about that.
Yeah, and then final point related to empathy and theory of mind is sometimes you can't read people's minds. Sometimes we don't know what's going on. But if we understand that it's the feelings that are going to matter on the back end of this transaction, and whatever they're pissed off about now, one day they're actually going to be less pissed off about.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And once the offer actually does show up, they're going to look back sometimes and go like, man, we've had lots of these guys where you guys have talked to us about how much the client hates you and you think you're going to get sued. And then on the back end, the house closes, it sells, and you get yourself a great review, and they act like they're your best friend. and you cannot understand what happened because they were absolutely psychotic demons during the transaction. And again, can you put yourself in their shoes and go, wait, there have been moments in my life where I've been a lot less than what I'd like to be.
Yep. And
under stress, I'm kind of a jackass. And so that was me, not you guys. and so I think being willing to actually just ask the question along the way. Don't be afraid. As you're checking in with them, don't give them data, give them narrative, give them context.
Here's where
but
we're
also, as you seek to understand what they're thinking and feeling, ask the question. Hey guys, I know it's been a few weeks. Here's the activity. Here's where we're at. Just wanted to know, like, where are your guys' heads at right now? How are you feeling about the process so far? How do you feel about the marketing? What are you guys thinking about how our strategy is or isn't working? These are scary questions to ask because what you're really saying is audit me.
Yeah.
And any normal human being would be afraid that, well, what if they say, I hate your guts? Or what if they say, I think your strategy sucks? Well, guys, put this on a totem pole. What's more important to you for them to be feeling that and not tell you?
That's a detriment to everything you're trying to do.
Or to allow it to deflate out of their heated balloon and to allow that pressure to come out into the open so that you can talk it through, adjust your strategy if you need to. You gotta be 6 inches taller.
Yep.
Every single one of you. And you gotta understand the game that we're in. We're the people business. It's a stressful context, and asking them what they're feeling is a smart way to approach it. It's back to go towards the danger. Open the door.
Yes, absolutely. And then you can label that feeling once you ask them how they're actually feeling. That there's so many things that you can then do, but if you're just going to let it go, you can't. But I mean, I think all of this we've talked about some of the way we respond in this, right? So I think we've been focused on the client's feelings and the way the client is thinking. And but let's be honest. I think that we need to control our own emotions and thoughts and responses in some of this, because can be really hard on us too, especially for those of us who haven't been around for a more normalized, longer market.
Well, maybe when we get better at understanding other people's feelings
we can
and other
understand
people's thoughts,
our own better.
We can look in the mirror.
Yeah, that's what truly.
Well, our egos are involved.
Yeah.
And this is a stressful situation for every one of our clients. It's also stressful for us, and we get to deal. It's kind of like being a triage doctor or something.
Truly,
we're every day we're dealing with the emergencies, and we get very few thanks for the things that work out well, but we sure get a lot of complaints from the things that aren't. And so, I think the point here is that you got to understand that at the end of the day, you don't get to whine. I mean, I have empathy for you, but you're the professional.
Yes.
And as you show up every day into the triage environment that you work in, and you get paid the big bucks for the outcome, right? You get paid well when you win, and you don't win them all, but you get paid. There's a great opportunity in this business.
Yeah.
Find a place and a context to check your own emotions, manage them, so that you can show up and be the rock that you're supposed to be. I've not found it. I've tried to have an AI version of it created. I look everywhere for this thing. I have not found it. It's a picture. And it's a picture of a very stormy ocean and a large rocky outcrop.
Okay.
And the waves, and there's like maybe one or two trees on top of the rock, the waves are crashing around the rock. And that's me. It's you. That's what you're supposed to be. We're the rock that weathers the storm. And every day what we got to do is step back out into a marketplace where people are at their most stressed and be the rock that navigates and keeps them safe, so that when the sun breaks and when the clouds part and the storm settles,
everybody made it through.
You got a happy client
Yeah.
that got their goal done. They they'll never apologize, but that would be a win. Hey, I'm sorry I was so stressed out. You don't need that.
No.
Because if they're thinking or feeling that, what you're going to have is an advocate. You're going to have someone that's grateful, whether they say it or not, that you guided them through such a stressful process and got them out the other side safe, and that's your job. We are the rock. So if you find that picture, send it to me. I'd love it framed on my wall.
It's a good one. Maybe we all need it.
Well, it's what I feel some days in dealing with realtors.
Yeah, and we're just people in general.
So on that, I just want to remind everyone, we're in the business of creating value for our people.
Yeah.
And yes, we sell, yes, we list, yes, we market, yes, we work with Zillow, but mostly what we do is deploy LRC, leadership.
Yep.
We help people know where we're going and where we're not going. We help them avoid bad decisions and make good ones. Relationship. We're in the business of giving people confidence by letting them know we've got their back, we're on their side, we're going to get them through it, we care about them. And creativity. We give them options. We help them understand different ways that things could be done. Here's an idea that maybe you hadn't thought of. LRC is the business we're in. Advocates is the objective and the goal. And every day, put on your work boots to go into this triage center, war zone.
That's a good way to do it.
And understand your job. You're the rock, and you've got emotions as well, and you get to be frustrated, but you're the doctor, they're the client, and we're here to guide them through the journey. Yeah, absolutely. So I feel this topic is really the overarching narrative to all of these things that we're talking through in this listing management series. So stay tuned when we continue our conversation about weekly updates next week. I'm excited.